Imagine you are in 3rd grade and your neighborhood school is walking distance from your home. Except even though that school is the most convenient, you are denied the opportunity to attend it because of the color of your skin. You're forced to take the bus as an 8-year-old across town to attend school with other students that have coloring just like you. This was the case for Linda Brown, but others too. This was the case for all African American children in the 1950s. Brown vs. Board of Education started in 1951 when Linda Brown's father sued so she could attend an all-white school in her neighborhood. Although this is the original case, by 1952 the U.S. Supreme Court had compiled cases from 5 states, each challenging the constitutionality of racial segregation in public schools. The ruling of this case was one of the most pivotal opinions ever, and the decision highlights the Supreme Court's role in reformation of national and social policy. It paved the way for more civil rights movements to come.
As Columbus and
when I was arrested on December 1st, 1955 for refusing to stand up on the orders of the bus driver after the white seats had been occupied in the front. And of course I was not in the front of the bus as many people had written and spoken that I was, that I got on the bus and took the front seat, but I did not. I took a seat that was just back of where the white people were sitting. And in fact, the last seat, and the man was next to the window, and I took an aisle seat, and there were 2 women across. And we went on undisturbed until about the 2nd or 3rd stop when some white people boarded the bus and left one man standing. And when the driver noticed him standing, he told us to stand up and let him have those seats. He referred to them as front seats. And when the other 3 people, after some hesitancy, stood up, he wanted to know if I was going to stand. I told him I was not, and he told me he would have me arrested. I told him he may do that. And of course he did.
Soon after Rosa Parks' arrest, a man named Martin Luther King Jr. decided to take action. He preached nonviolence, and with the help of his friend, he organized a boycott of Montgomery buses. The demands they made were simple. Black passengers should be treated with courtesy, seating should be on a first-come, first-served basis, and African American drivers should drive routes that primarily served African Americans. On December 5, 1955, the boycott went into effect, only 4 days after Parks' arrest. Montgomery officials tried to use violence to stop it, but it didn't work. 99% of the city's African Americans refused to ride the buses. And finally, on November 23, 1956, the Supreme Court ruled in favor and declared segregating buses unconstitutional. The Montgomery bus boycott triggered a firestorm in the South. Across the region, blacks resisted moving to the back of the bus.
Little boxes made of ticky-tacky, little boxes, little boxes, little boxes, always singing.
Suburbia. One thinks of neatly trimmed roads, meticulous gardens, identical houses. But under the surface, this growing movement represented a fundamental change in the way Americans lived. The rise of suburbanization changed the structure of daily life and recreated the American identity. There are many reasons why suburbia became such a fast-growing trend. After World War II, the population began to expand at an unprecedented rate, known as the post-war baby boom. This created an urgent need for housing. And with the crimes committed in the World Wars, on top of the uncertainty of the Cold War and the nuclear age, American families found stability and protection living farther away from the city. Also, racial fears drove many to live in areas that are guaranteed to be segregated, as all early suburbs were available to only white families. The man who first promoted suburban growth was William Levitt. Contracted by the U.S. government during World War II to quickly build housing for military personnel, Levitt was the first to apply techniques of mass production to home construction. He created the phenomena of building a house in one day and revolutionized suburban communities. This assembly line approach made the houses in these suburban communities called Levittowns extremely affordable, changing the quality of living for thousands of Americans, whether they be blue or white-collar workers. This new system of living had an immense effect on the American daily routine. First, it created a wider gap between work and leisure. Because husbands would commute to urban areas for work, coming home to the suburbs, which were a significant distance away from their jobs, created a greater duality between working time and family time. It also created a sense of conformity, which, while seemed idyllic to some, were strictly criticized by others. Suburban communities such as Levittown and Long Island in Pennsylvania had strict rules in order to keep houses in unison. Even the maintenance of houses and yards were meticulously governed. Nonetheless, the suburban life became the hub of the American dream. It gave middle and lower class families, which started out as only white but over time grew to include families of color, the chance to own their own land, a car, a dog, and raise multiple children in a community with perfectly planned amenities such as playgrounds and parks, all in an ideal, peaceful setting. The times of hunger from the Great Depression and sacrifice and loss from the wars were over, and a new era of idyllic domesticity and stability was beginning.
Makes me sad when someday
As stated before, the 1950s were a great time period with rich culture. Some examples of the mass culture in society are seen in the cars, drive-in movies, diners, the fashion, music icons such as Elvis Presley, film icons like Marilyn Monroe, controversial issues with race in sports such as baseball and Jackie Robinson, and lastly the revolutionary TV dinner, bringing families together and helping to expose the entire U.S. to mass cultural ideas.
well, you are the one that makes me glad, and you are the one that makes me sad. When someday you want me, well, I'll be there, wait and see. Maybe, baby, I'll have you. Maybe, baby, you'll be true. Maybe, baby, I'll have you for me.